Viva Data Viva. Okay. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I grew up in a place that most of you know as a place that is found with a lot of illegal activities where people forge their papers for exams. Thank you. I'm glad that you know that. That's where I grew up. I did all my schooling from there. And I was never exposed to wildlife or any knowledge of conservation careers. I only got to learn about conservation in grade 12 when I visited the Department of National Parks. I went there to collect data for my field project, geography. I met a very good person who shared their career experience with me. And it was then that I had an idea about careers in conservation. After grade 12, like many of you, I wanted to study things like law, journalism, and the like. But because I had some limitations, I needed the government bursary, and my points were not that great. I found myself at CBU, as fate would have it, studying a Bachelor of Science in Wildlife Management. Like I said, it wasn't my first choice. Actually, my mother said, go and study nursing. A lot of your aunties are doing this. You easily get a job. But I refused. And I went ahead to CBU. I got that bachelor's in BSc. Whilst I was there, it was an interesting journey. I developed a huge passion for conservation. I was very zealous. I was very ambitious. Our lecturers would say things like, this is a very good degree. It will open many doors for you. And we were excited. We wanted to get out there and be conservation heroes. Well, it wasn't the case for me. When I left CBU, I was home for 5 years. Yeah, 5 years. I didn't get a job for 5 years. I was home. I was depressed. I thought about going to study nursing. I should have listened to my mother. I thought about going to study journalism. I said, probably I could make it there. But there was still something in me that just kept the passion. I knew what I wanted, and I wanted to be in conservation. I took it upon myself to take a step. I said, this year, Lord, I have to get a job. Whatever it is, I have to get a job. I began to network. I kept in touch with my friends. I would ask them, hi guys, where are you? What are you doing? And they'll be like, oh, I'm in Fue, I'm working. I'm in Sioma, I'm working. And it would always get to me. But I said, I will get a job. So in the networks, I finally got my first internship with FHI 360. And then I got a second internship with Lusaka Sanitation Program. And then I got another small job with News Diggers. Yes, nothing conservation there. I would go to people's offices and tell them, should advertise in our paper, our rates are good, and so on. But I still kept my passion. I was very focused and very determined to get a job in conservation because I knew I loved it. So, one day, during one of my networking events, during tea break, I overheard people. I wasn't part of their conversation. I just overheard them. They were talking about an NGO, International Crane Foundation, and they were talking about a particular person. His name is Griffin. And they said, oh, there's Griffin. He's a coordinator for Zambia, ICF. And I kept the name in mind. Remember, when you're job hunting, you keep your ears open. So, when I got home, I searched for Griffin, and I found him on LinkedIn. I cleaned up my CV, I cleaned up my cover letter, I wrote a long message in his inbox. This is a person I never knew. I said, "Hi, how are you?" I didn't do what most of you do. You go to someone's inbox and you say, "Hi." Then you wait for a response. "How are you?" I didn't do that because I know that people are busy. I said, if I'm going to shoot my shot, I'm aiming for the target. And so I sent a message, I explained myself, I attached my CV, I attached my cover letter, and I explained how I loved conversation. And 3 weeks later, at 23 hours, I remember, I got a message and it said, "Hi, Saziso. Thank you for reaching out to me. We had an opening, but it's closed. Still, you can send your application and we'll see what we can do about it." I said, "Okay." I quickly sent my application and I waited. In the wait, I prepared. I Googled everything about International Crane Foundation. Literally everything. I stalked the people that worked there. Well, they called me for an interview. Cut the long story short, I got my first job in conservation. For me, this was a foot in the door, and it's all that I needed. I was ready. When I say I was ready, I was ready. So I got there. I was a project assistant. As a project assistant, I worked everywhere. I did everything. I made coffee for my boss, and I loved it. And I made sure to make the great coffee that I could. I made tea for my boss, Mr. Mwape. I was a girl who went for aerial service. I was a girl who was an assistant at the front desk. I did everything. Law enforcement, buying food, rations, everything you could think of. And sometimes my friends and I would laugh and say, "Sazi, you're the office octopus because your hands are literally in everything." It was overwhelming, I would tell you, but I kept my goal and I knew what I wanted. For me, that was a learning point. That was a learning opportunity to learn everything as much as I could. I was patient. I was building my skills. I was building my capacity. And when I felt I was ready for another opportunity, I took my chance and applied for a job with African Parks. When I told a few friends about it, they said they wouldn't pick you. That's a very big organization, and you don't have so much experience. I said, "Well, what's the worst that could happen? They'll probably just say no, and I still have a job." And so I applied. I put in my best. I consulted from those that I could, and I got the job. I got the job at an organization that has 22 national parks to its name in 12 African countries. African Parks is a conservation NGO that signs agreements with governments to co-manage national parks. And in Zambia, African Parks is in Bangweulu, it's in Liuwa Plains, and also in Kafue National Park, the largest national park in Zambia. And that is where I'm currently working. Now, as a community development officer, what do I do? Most of you, when you think about conservation, you're probably thinking lions chasing you, or you're chasing lions. Well, it's not the case. As a community development officer, I work with people. I work with communities around game management areas. So I work with the community resources boards. These are people who look after the natural resources in those areas. I do a lot of capacity building trainings. I work with children, conservation clubs, teaching them about the importance of natural resources. I work with line ministries like the Department of National Parks to collaborate and find ways that communities could benefit from the natural resource efforts that we are doing in Kafue National Park. It's very important that we engage communities in the management of natural resources because these are the custodians of these resources. It's very important that they experience and appreciate the benefits that come from these resources. And that is my job, to work with the communities to come up with alternative livelihood sources that are sustainable so that they move away from a heavy dependence on the natural resources in and around Kafue National Park. My job is very interesting, and it gives me a lot of pleasure and fulfillment because I am part of a larger system that is working very hard to ensure that Kafue National Park is a healthy ecosystem, both ecologically and economically for everyone. Having said all this, my message to you today is find your passion. Work towards your passion and don't give up. Prepare yourself for the opportunities that you are praying for. Clean up your CV, put up a good cover letter, be ready for every opportunity. Be willing to start from anywhere. Most of you here, you want a big office, a big salary. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to start from somewhere, and you have to prepare, and you have to keep learning. I have a great job, and I love it. But because I'm thinking about SAZI in 5 years, I've already enrolled myself in a master's program because I want to keep learning and building my capacity. That is what you must do. There are a lot of free online courses that you can take and build yourself, your knowledge. Network, get out there. Find out what's happening in conservation. What are people doing? Who is who? What's the new trend? Conservation technology. What can I learn? Keep yourself updated. Upgrade yourself. Don't just hold on to that degree that you have or that diploma. Keep upgrading. Keep learning. Keep networking. And finally, get involved. Get involved in conservation work, community work. You hear people are doing a tree planting exercise, be part of it. Birdwatch does a lot of bird counts. Volunteer and be part of it. You network, you learn. Finally, I urge you all to take a step. Take a step and be that conservation hero that you want to be. Thank you.